Okay, once again, welcome to the Unshakable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure, so much gratitude, that I'm welcoming Lovey Russo all the way from sunny Bermuda, who's come to speak for around 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for Q&A. And Lovey has chose this reading that I'm going to read, and it's from page 100 of the big book. Both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. And with that, over to you, Lovey.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Lovey Russo and I'm an addict. And it's only by the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm alive, sober, and recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And what that means is that I get to be productive in my life today. It means I get to suit up and show up and be a wife, a mother, a daughter, and a sister. It means I didn't wake up, jonesing for that next fix. It means that, I don't have that obsession to drink or drug. If you guys will give me just a second here, I have a grand sponsor who absolutely insists that I do this. Rule 62, don't take yourself so damn seriously, right? So guys, I have to remember that today, despite having the podium or the microphone, I am just another bozo on the bus, right? And I have lots of learning yet to do. And so thank you for having me. Guys, I have a clean and sober date. It is September the 7th of 2015. And in that very, very short amount of time, there's been no need or obsession to pick up a drink or a drug. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor who has a sponsor ad infinitum. And I sponsor sponsors. And this one time I complained about a GSR meeting and now I have a service sponsor. So guys, I beg of you to be very careful what you complain to your sponsors about. I have a home group. It is known as the Global Main Purpose Group, and it's a big book meeting on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's tonight, so if you would like, by all means, please join us. I will put that information in the chat later. But guys, due to the power of amends, I get to live on the beautiful, beautiful island of Bermuda. And Bermuda is a UK overseas territory. So if you guys find yourself on my beautiful island, either flying in or coming in on a cruise, and you want to go to a meeting, please, please, please let me know. I am more than happy to take you to a meeting or make arrangements for you to be taken to a meeting. And conversely, if you find yourself in New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and you want to go to a meeting, that same invitation applies. Young, thank you so much for asking me to speak, and to Rach and everyone else who is of service today. Young and I seem to follow each other around a little bit. Young spoke for me earlier today, and last year I had the honor of a month-long big book commitment, facilitating a big book dive, and then Young took my place. Once my commitment was over, Young stepped in, and he did a much better job. But guys, it's always an honor and a privilege to do anything for 12-step recovery. So what you're going to hear is 100% my experience, my reality. I can only share with you that, right? That's all I have to offer. And I'm a fellow traveler on this road, and I do not profess to know anything, nothing, nada about AA, CA, NA, the big book, or God, because those experiences change on a daily basis. So how many of you guys have one of these? I'm willing to bet pretty much everyone, right? So this little device has more computing power than the computers that took human beings to the moon back in like 1969, right? This little device has given me freedom beyond my imagination, right? When I was learning to drive and to fly, I needed paper maps. Do you guys remember that? You had to unfold these big maps, or you had binders, little maps, and you had to match everything up. And I would trace out the route, and I would write it out, and I'd speak to other people and verify where I was going and figure out the landmarks. And I remember driving really, really slowly down a street, looking for house numbers, right? Or trying to find that bright pink house because it was a landmark, and the direction would be turn left at that landmark. If you see the CN Tower, you've gone too far. Today, I just put the address into my phone, and within seconds, not only do I have directions, but I also have like places of interest. I get nearby restaurants, hours of operations, and this little device and this thing called Google, right, allows me to search for things on the spot, right? There's absolute immediacy with this thing. Now, I remember, guys, I'm older than a lot of you, but I remember when, I had an idea or I had a question, I'd have to write it down, or worse, write it on ink on my hand and then run home and take out an outdated encyclopedia and try and look it up. And if I was really good, I'd write it on a piece of paper, then take it into school the next day and go to the card catalog, right? And try and find a book or something. And oftentimes I just never, ever got the answer. But now I do. So yesterday, I learned how to Apple Pay. Guys, that's a game changer for me, right? All I have to do is go, and I paid for something. I don't have to bring my wallet with me. I was in Cambodia last year, and this device allows me to translate in real time English to Khmer and Khmer back to English, right? And I was able to communicate effectively with the local people, and I avoided ordering some local delicacies, shall we say. Although I will tell you, it did not help me out at all in Birmingham, right? I don't know what spoken there, but this thing did not help in Birmingham. But guys, I use this phone to, check into my flights. I use it to bank while I'm sitting on the beaches in Bermuda. I can pay all my bills online. I can video chat with my kids. I can take pictures and edit them, right? I have a library full of my favorite books, not to mention TikTok or whatever the latest internet craze is. And I can honestly tell you that I have developed a very positive reliance and dependence on this little phone, right? It's life-changing. There was a time when I left the house with a camera, a Sony Walkman, a wallet, a phone book, a map, a novel, right? All I have to do is walk out with this. So much easier. Now, I don't understand how cell technology works, right? That's kind of beyond me. I don't have a clue. I know there are radio waves and there are cell towers and signals are bounced from one to another. And the phone is a receiver, right? But do I sit and waste time worrying about how it works, why it works? Nah, I don't do any of that, right? I just trust that it works. But in order for my phone to work, there's action that I have to take. I have to make sure that the device is charged. And then I have to go in and type in my password and then go to settings. And I got to scroll to general and find, that thing that says cellular, and click, and voila, I'm connected. And I'm connected to all of you. And there was very, very little else that I need to do. Now, I'm also willing to bet that all of us, or at least most of us, have been on an airplane at least once in your life. And I'm willing to bet most of us have been in an aircraft at least once in the last 2 years. But let me ask you another question. How many of you guys understand aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, coefficient of lift, right? How many of you can actually make repairs to that aircraft, right? If the air brakes go, can you fix them? Can you fix the turbine if it develops a rattle? How many of you can actually physically pilot that plane, right? But does that stop you from getting on an aircraft in London Heathrow and flying to Madrid? No, right? Or getting on in New York and flying to Rio de Janeiro? No, not at all. We queue up, we say hello to the flight attendants. Hi, how are you? We find our seats, we sit down, we shut up, we put on our seatbelt, and we enjoy the flight, trusting that that aircraft is going to get us safely to our destination. See, guys, this is true for God, right? I don't have to understand God to have God work in my life. See, and that's really, really important. For a long time, I tried to define what this God was, how it worked, how AA, how CA worked, how the 12-step works. I don't need to know. I just need to do it. With the exception of maybe the last 100 years or so, every human society has had some kind of belief in a power greater than themselves, right? Whether they called it God or gods or spirits or whatever greater power was available to them. There's even evidence that Neanderthals, early human ancestors, believed and experienced this higher power. And this is seen in mortuary practices or funeral practices. It's how the dead are placed, red ochre, flowers, pottery. And it's seen on cave paintings and pictographs, right? And the big book tells me for that deep down in every woman, man, and child is the fundamental idea of God. The fundamental idea of God, right? And this fundamental idea has been expressed for millennia, one way or another. Who am I to say that there's no God? Who am I to discount God working in my life? The universe as we understand it is 13 billion years old. I'm 60. How can my finite human brain understand and digest the divine and the infinite, right? See, guys, no human power can keep me clean and sober. That means that I need to develop a reliance and a dependence on God. Just like I rely on my cell phone, I rely on God for guidance, for structure, and for discipline in my life. My sponsor taught me that to have this relationship with God, I needed to set aside my prejudice. What? Your prejudice? Huh? What exactly was that? Well, that's the religion of my youth, or the concepts of faith in God from when I was a little kid, right? I have to lay aside what I think I know about God, or the way that things work. I need to be willing, right? I need to be willing to take the necessary action, no matter at what cost. And I need to understand that the only solution to my alcoholism, to my addiction, is through a spiritual pursuit. And I have to seek. I have to take the action. Now, guys, my primary fellowship is AA. My drug of choice is alcohol. And for me, AA stands for action and accountability, right? I have to seek. I have to take the action. And for me, God is in everything that I do, say, and observe. Now, the big book speaks, actually it's the 12 and 12, and the 12 and 12 speaks to this with respect to electricity, right? That you flip the switch and here we have light, heat, TV, Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and we take it for granted, right? We just assume that it's there. And I think it's page 35 of the 12 and 12. Let me see. Right? But it says that the moment our mental and emotional independence is in question, how differently we behave. Nobody is going to meddle with our personal independence in such matters. Besides, we think there is no one we can surely trust. We are certain that our intelligence, backed by willpower, can rightly control our inner lives and guarantee us success in the world we live in, right? Here's the thing. I wasn't independent. I relied on alcohol and other substances to exist in this world, right? I had no other way. I had no viable solution. And I made booze and people my higher power. And then the 12 and 12 goes on, and I think it's page 116, and it talks about, when we develop still more, we discovered the best possible source of emotional stability to be God himself, right? And we found that dependence upon him, dependence upon his perfect justice, his forgiveness and his love was healthy, and that it would work when nothing else would. And if we really depended upon God, we couldn't very well play God to our fellows, right? Couldn't play God. And we would feel the urge to wholly rely on him, right? And the 12 and 12 then continues with something like, no man could believe in God and defy him too. Belief meant reliance, not defiance. Oh, wow, right? So guys, when I first walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was facing a 16-year federal prison sentence for flying a commercial aircraft drunk. So much for dependence and self-reliance, right? I was white knuckling it in early sobriety, and there was no relief, and I wanted to drink, and I had placed props in my life, and I was using willpower and resolve not to take that first drink, and I was miserable, right? And early into my precarious sobriety, I heard a man at the back of the room, and he shared something, and he said that he had a threefold illness. He had this spiritual malady, he had a physical allergy, and he had this weird mental twist. And this twist tells him that it's okay to take a drink or a drug, despite all the evidence to the contrary. And he said the only defense for that was God. And on page 18 of our big book, it says something to the effect that the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, the 12 steps, who's properly armed with the facts about themselves, right? That they have a spiritual malady, that they are have a physical allergy and a mental obsession, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic within a very, very short time. Finally, I found someone who knew what was wrong with me and had a solution. See, my first step was predicated on somebody else's 12th step. I didn't know at the time that frequent contact with newcomers was going to be the bright spot in my life. I didn't know that my drinking and drugging experience would make me uniquely useful to others. I didn't know to be helpful was our only aim. I didn't know love and tolerance of others is our code. But see, he did. And page 89 of the book, let me find, because it's too long for me to memorize, says, practical experience shows that nothing will ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Life will take on new meaning to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss, right? See, guys, my sponsor taught me to go to God in absolutely everything, all the time, right? My sponsor is patient and kind. He's not my banker. He's not my therapist. He's not my marriage counselor. He's not my mummy. He's my sponsor, right? His only job is to take me through the steps so that I could begin to create and nurture this relationship with God, right? He was there to help cultivate that. So when my dad died, I did what my sponsor taught me to do, and I went straight to God. And I told the God of my understanding that, I didn't hate him, and that my relationship with him wasn't going to change. And I asked him to give me the strength to be the person that my higher power needed me to be, right? And then I called my sponsor, and then I called my husband. See, I was able to show up and be a responsible daughter and help my elderly mother. I was able to be there for my sisters. I was able to be useful and of service, and I was able to pay for my father's final expenses. If I had been drinking and drugging, I wouldn't even made it off the island, right? I would have been drunk and absolutely out of it. Now, my current sponsor is a very, very lovely Southern gentleman. He wears seersucker suits and says things like, "all y'all," which is really sort of a change for me. But he's a spiritual giant in my eyes. And he argues this point, and it's a true reflection of his humility. You see, guys, we walk shoulder to shoulder on this journey. I learn from him. He learns from me. I learn from the people with whom I work. You see, we're all equals, right? We go to God first, and we invite God into our lives. In my life, it's God, AA, my husband, and then my children. See, because without God and AA, I wouldn't have a husband, I wouldn't have a marriage, and my children wouldn't talk to me. You see, I had to recognize my total inability to form real and true partnerships with other human beings. Right? I either dominate them or depend on them way too much. And the book says that we either try to play God or we try to dominate those about us, and then we became too dependent on them, right? So I will tell you that the last couple of weeks have been rather difficult. My 83-year-old mother-in-law is in the hospital with colon cancer. She had a portion of her colon removed. We don't know if she'll ever come home from the hospital. My middle daughter had surgery a week ago today for aggressive liver tumor. My eldest daughter wants to start a family, and she did genetic testing only to discover that she carries a gene that gives her an 80% chance of developing breast cancer. And she is going to undergo a double mastectomy in the fall. And so my sponsor says to me, "Did you pray? Did you pray for God's will?" You see, it's really spiritually arrogant of me to suggest to God what he needs to do, right? And I only pray for his will. See, remember, guys, I have to remember that I'm human. I'm finite. I don't know anything, right? And all of this stuff is way, way beyond my pay grade. And I know that whatever happens, whatever it is, I'm going to be okay, right? God's got this. And here are the silver linings. My mother-in-law is no longer in pain, right? She's comfortable and she's content in the hospital with pain management. My daughter's surgery was very, very successful, and she's improving every day. And my other daughter will have reconstructive surgery, and all of her sisters, all of my daughters, they'll be tested so we can take corrective measures as necessary. So our 12th step says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Now, for me, the first part is a promise. Right? That if I do the first 11 steps, I am promised, I am guaranteed a spiritual awakening. For me, the steps are directions for finding this God of my understanding, right? And there are conditions. I have to be thoroughly honest, no half measures, and I need to be fearless. If I'm willing to do that work, right, I'm guaranteed a spiritual awakening. Now, the second part of step 12 is to carry this message, right? Carry this message to others who are suffering. What is this message? Well, for me, only for me, the message is found on the foreword to the first edition of our book. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to show other alcoholics Precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book, right? Precisely. There is no wiggle room. The directions are right here. See, guys, I have a responsibility to take others through the steps, to watch this fellowship grow up among me, right? For me, the message is hope and recovery, that I get to live happy, joyous, and free. Sandy Beach said that the steps are simply a treasure map for finding the God of our understanding. I just didn't stop, drinking and drugging to stay clean. I stopped so that I could develop this relationship. The book says, do you have a sufficient substitute? Hell yes, we do, right? Now, the book also uses the word approach 28 times. See, guys, I have a responsibility to look for that new face that I don't recognize in my home group. And I'll go up to them and say, hi, are you new? Yes, welcome. My name is Lovey. Here's the coffee. Here are the donuts. Here are the bathrooms. Here's a meeting schedule. Ooh, look at all these nice big book meetings I strongly recommend you go to, right? Here's a 4th edition book. Please come and sit beside me. Would you like to go for coffee after the meeting and talk? Another new face. Hi, are you new? Especially in Bermuda. No, I'm visiting. Welcome. My name is Lovey. Here's the coffee or the tea. Here are the scones, because we don't donut in Bermuda, right? Here are the bathrooms. Here's a meeting schedule. Here are the hotels closest to your, here are the meetings closest to your hotel. How can I be useful? Do you need a ride? What can I do to make your time on my island that much better? Another new face. Hi, are you new? No, I got 30 years of resentment on a coffee pot, and I'm just here to create chaos. Welcome. My name is Lovey. Here's the coffee. Here are the donuts. Here's the bathroom. Here's a meeting schedule. Here's a 4th edition book, just in case you're still working from the 3rd, right? Or the 2nd. Please come and sit beside me. Let me introduce you to some people. See, guys, I get to do that today, right? I get to suit up and show up and be sort of an ambassador of the big book, right? Because I might be the only version of a big book somebody will ever see. And I get to do that. And I also have a responsibility to make sure that the music of Alcoholics Anonymous is still heard by those who have stopped hearing it, right? It's not only about the newcomer. We've got plenty of people who are sitting in these rooms who have stopped hearing the music, right? I get to do that. Guys, I've been accused of being a little disingenuous or a little too excited or a little too enthusiastic, but this is me, right? I am really passionate about this program, what it has done for my life, right? This has irrevocably changed who I am. It's an amazing, amazing program. Let's see, where was I? Okay, so the 3rd part of step 12 is to practice these principles in all of my affairs. All of my affairs. Not just some of them, all of them. Ugh. And therein is the rub, right? It's how I behave when I'm in Sainsbury's behind a little old lady paying in coupons and pennies, and there was someplace that I needed to be 20 minutes ago, right? How do I behave? How do I behave when I'm at Heathrow and my flight is leaving in 90 minutes and I still got to go through security and through immigration, right? How do I behave? That's the testament of my spiritual fitness. And that's the challenge in my life. And I try to live with the principles of compassion, patience, forgiveness, love, goodwill, humility, fidelity, honesty, consideration, compassion. I know our book uses the phrase, love and tolerance of others is our code. For me, I can't use the word tolerance. For me, that comes from a place of spiritual hubris. I am just putting up with you and your nonsense, right? I need to use the word compassion, right? When I am coming from a place of compassion, I'm trying to put myself into your footsteps. I'm trying to see the world through your eyes. And that makes me, my only job today, as a result of the 3rd step, is to care for God's kids right here, right now, on their journey, wherever they may happen to be, with love and compassion, without judgment or opinion. It's a tall order. Some days are absolutely much better than others, right? And on page 86 of our book, it asks me, right? Was I loving kind to all today? And most of the time I can say, yes, I was loving kind to everybody in action. Right? But what am I doing in my thoughts? Am I character assassinating you? Am I looking at you going, right? And still keeping my mouth shut? That's not okay either. But these are the things that I get to work on today. And see, guys, I get to be a producer harmony today, rather than confusion. And I get to live in a certain amount of peace. Now, restitution is a huge part of the spiritual principles of my life. And restitution obviously follows our 9-step amends. So I had to make an amends to a government agency that sort of oversees aviation in the United States. And I put it off for a really, really long time. But see, I've got this really, really great sponsor who just won't let me off the hook, right? Because we do this thing together. We walk shoulder to shoulder on this journey, and he knows how important it is for me to do my amends. And he would say things like, hey, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you get it done? Nope. Do it. Guys, one of my character defects is thinking I'm smugly superior to my sponsor. So what did I do? I called my attorney, barrister, solicitor, whatever, and explained to him what I was going to do. And he said, oh, hell no. We worked so hard to keep you out of jail, and you want to go do what? I am vindicated, guys, vindicated. I go back to my sponsor. I go, hey there, spons. This is what my attorney said. And my sponsor looks at me like only a sponsor could, pats me condescendingly on the head and says, oh, that's so sweet. How free do you want to be? Get on your knees and pray for the willingness to be willing. Right? Take it to God. And the big book tells me that if the desired or if the indicated action is to be taken, I must not shirk. So had a conversation with my husband and my kids, and they all agreed it was something I had to do. So I made an appointment with this agency, and I went down and I took my attorney because I knew I was going to need him. And I took my union rep, and I took another sober pilot. And as I stood, I said to them that I was a sober woman in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that my sobriety was predicated on me doing the next right thing, and that I would accept any decision, any judgment that they made for me. And I wasn't there to beg for my job back, and I wasn't there to have my license reinstated. I was simply there to do the next right thing, whatever it might be. There was a man who said to me, I too am a sober man in Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, and this is what we want you to do. Never drink and drug again, one day at a time. But we want you to help share what alcoholism and drug addiction is in the aviation community. See, guys, and I get to do that today. I will never fly again. My wings have been clipped. I get to work with lots and lots of other people. I get to help share. I get to share on their path, on this journey, right? On this incredible road of spiritual growth. Now, I understand that my job today is to be of maximum helpfulness to God and to others, right? So I never hesitate to go anywhere if I can be helpful. I'm on the front firing lines. I'm not stuck somewhere in the middle of the program, right? And the book tells me as long as my motives are to be helpful, right? My motives and useful to God, God's going to keep me safe and protected, right? I'm living in the 10-step promises in a state of neutrality, safe and protected. And you know, page 77 makes it very, very clear, right? My real purpose as an individual is to fit myself, right? That doesn't sound very comfortable. It doesn't sound very convenient. It's like trying to take you know, 10 rugby players and smash them all, or trying to make them fit into a Fiat, right? It's just not very, it could be done. It's just not very comfortable, right? But if I fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about me, amazing things happen, right? Because I now get to take care of you. I now, you know, I'm no longer sitting in self and self-centeredness. My job today is taking care of you, taking care of God's kids. See, guys, what I understand is that God is now. God is in the moment. God is in the here and now. And right now, everything is good, right? You agree? Everything right here, right now is good? What about now? Now, right? Everything is good right here and right now. And so, you know, I get to celebrate that, right? I can be silly and I can have fun, right? We can blow bubbles because I don't have to take anything too seriously, right? I have this amazing power that loves me, that's helping me, that's assisting me. It's the only thing that's keeping me from picking up a drink. And I couldn't have done this without you guys. I know I'm running a little early, but guys, if you're new or nearly new, please, please, please keep coming. Get a sponsor, someone who has experience in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and do the work. You know, this life is unbelievably amazing because you are worth it. And if you're a veteran of this program, I beg you, I beseech you, I implore you, reach out your hand to a newcomer, right? And show them that this program works, because we do it together, shoulder to shoulder. Can't do it without you. And I am going to close with page 164. And it says, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. That's it. Sorry, guys, it's a little early, but I ran out of things to say.
My question for Lovey is, she stressed more than once. Did you pray on it? Did you give it to God? Did you reach out to God? Could you expand a little bit more on that and reinforce the importance of that? That's where I'm struggling with today. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Leanne. So, you know, when we make new friends, right? We encounter them, we say, hi, how are you? And we slowly start to have a dialogue. You know, I'm from here and this is what I do, and you're from there and this is what you do. And slowly but surely, we start to develop a relationship, a friendship. There's something that's intimate and innate about it. And that's what I've done with my higher power, right? I have conversations with my higher power. I invite that higher power into my life. It's just not a random one thing. It's like calling my best friend. Hey, I'm going to the mall. You want to come with me? Let's go. Hey, I'm going to the optometrist. Want to come with me? Hey, do these glasses look good? Whatever it is, right? And that way, this higher power becomes second nature to me. It's always with me. And I can tap into that, into that hidden well of strength. But it does take time. It's just like creating a new best friend. It just doesn't happen overnight. But I try, and for me, the results have been immeasurable and certainly beyond my wildest dreams. Hope that helps.
Lovely. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for your question. Next up, Rach, would you like to comment?
Hello, everyone. I'm Rach. I'm a grateful recovered addict. Thank you all for being here. Lovey, yeah. I just, honestly, your energy, your passion. I remember the first time I heard you. I'm so grateful for you coming today and sharing your message. Character defects, like that keep on, you know, being a bit persistent, keep on showing up. And, you know, you're a couple of years in now. I know you just answered that last question really well, but could you give any more insight onto how you overcome reoccurring character defects, please?
Oh, that's that Rachel. So what, as I understand it, and my experience, my character defects are not absolved. They don't go away. At least not many of them do. They keep popping up. And, you know, in the 7-step prayer, it says that, you know, I give you the good and the bad, because I don't know what's good and I don't know what's bad. And it's like going to a coin star and taking all your bundle of coins and you drop it in, and it sorts it for you. And you know, you get this little slip of paper. And that's the way my higher power works in my life too, right? My higher power uses my character defects to maybe teach you a lesson, right? A lesson how not to behave. Sometimes my character defects are used to reinforce things that I shouldn't be doing, but I do them anyway. And if I'm not absolutely willing, right, in the sixth step, I have to be absolutely willing to let those things go. Some of them are really spicy and I enjoy them too much, right? I'm not willing to let them go because they still work for me. I have to be entirely willing, right? It's like eating red meat. We all know eating red meat isn't very good for you, but are we all willing to let go of red meat? Not always, right? So, but I do know that just because those character defects are not gone does not mean that I get to execute them, right? The book gives me very clear instructions that, you know, when I'm faced with impatience or anger or whatever it is, that I ask for the strength, and then I execute the opposite behavior, and then I resolutely turn my attention to somebody that I would help, right? Whoever that happens to be, because I can't behave improperly anymore. Those character defects are still there, but I don't need to act on them. Does that help?
Thanks for your question, Rach. Before we go over to you, Arkhouse, we've got one in the chat. Question in the chat, Lovey, is you said that your understanding of recovery changes every day. What are the most profound changes you have experienced in your sobriety?
My illness is progressive, right? It keeps moving up like this. My spiritual fitness has to stay ahead of my illness. So what I did to stay sober in the beginning is not what I need to do to stay clean and sober today, right? My spiritual fitness is far more intensive. It might not be as long as it used to be because I'm much better at it. It's like training for an athletic event, right? If I'm going to run a marathon, I need to start training for it. I need to put the effort and the work into it. So my spiritual fitness also needs to have opportunities to flex itself, right? There has to be things that will hit it and deflect, and I need to reevaluate it. Okay, this is working, this isn't working, you know, but at all times I need to go to a higher power, because that is the only thing that keeps me from picking up a drink, because I've got this built-in forgetter, right? That will tell me, ooh, you know what? That watermelon vodka something or other looks really, really good, and it's a nice hot day outside. Ooh. And the only thing that keeps me from picking that up is that pause, is that 30 seconds. And that's God coming into my life, because I am spiritually fit, because I follow and practice the principles.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks, Lovey. Arkhouse. Come on in, guys. What's your question?
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm an addict and alcoholic. The reading talks about walking hand in hand with the new man. It talks a lot about being a sponsor and taking people through the 12 steps. I'm just wondering, you know, if you had a new sponsee who had some knowledge of the book, say, you know, out from a treatment centre like Hunger the Beast, do you take them back to the beginning of the book, or do you have specific parts of the book that you would get them to read to start with?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the obsession to drink or use, you know, we've only got like this much time, right? Between the time that, you know, you've got clear mind and maybe that obsession hits. And I do what's called emergency medical triage. And I take people through the book quickly, intensively. It's like, if you know you're in a car accident and you know you nearly sever your arm, you don't want the doctor to say, you know, we're going to watch this for 90 days. You know, here's the textbook. You read up on it and we'll get back to you. No, take me to the emergency room, knock me out, sew my arm back on, right? Same thing is true with the steps, because we're dealing with this much time. So I take people through the steps quickly, thoroughly, and we do the work. And then we come back and then we go through the book word by word, line by line, so they really fully get it. But they need that instant relief. They need that relief immediately. And so whenever I start working with a new person, I always ask them, are you willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol or your addiction? And I make them sign it. And then we do the work. And I ask them to lay aside their prejudice, all the things they think they might know about recovery, about their illness. And we start fresh, and because we need that clean slate.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks for your question, Andrew. I'll come back to you, Jamie, in a minute. We've just got a question from Terry in the chat. I was thinking about love and tolerance earlier after a sponsee is looking at me like I'm his banker. What would you do in that situation?
You know, I'm not your banker, right? I mean, here's the thing. If I start to give handouts to the people that I work with, then they are starting to form a dependence and a reliance on me. And I'm a human power. I can't keep anybody sober under any circumstances, right? So that's why this talk was so centered around developing a relationship with God, right? You know, the 9-step promises talk about having that fear of economic insecurity removed. Am I going to be wealthy? No. Am I going to win $1 million? Yeah, probably not. But I have enough confidence and trust in my higher power that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right here, right now, that things are going to work out exactly the way that they should. So giving people things, although it seems altruistic, it seems nice, it seems kind, isn't always in their best interest, because we want them to start to rely on their higher power and not on us, because I'm a human power and I'm going to let them down. And then they're going to say, well, this program doesn't work because you let me down. Because my experience, God has never let me down.
Lovely. Thanks for your question, Terry. Oh, also, he said, don't forget pew, pew, pew. So let's go back over to Ark House. Jamie, come on in.
Hi, my name's Jamie. Cocaine addict. Yeah, lovely share. Lovely share. Right, so you talked about we don't need to know what God is or what God does for us. And I'm quite early in sobriety, trying to discover. But if you could tell me what do you know God has done for you?
Okay. So much, but here's an example. When I was 14, I got blackout drunk and I got pregnant, right? No idea how that happened, with whom that happened, or anything. And that baby was placed for adoption at birth. And, you know, 5 people on the whole planet knew about his existence. I come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and this baby is no longer a baby, but a full-grown man, and he found me. See, what I didn't realize was that I was merely a vessel. I was a womb, right? I provided genetics. His adoptive parents loved him, cared for him, nurtured him. He joined the military trained him. And God put this young man where he would be of maximum service. He is a combat surgeon. He's a lieutenant colonel, and he works pretty much exclusively with civilian refugee populations. See, I didn't know way back then what was going on. And I'm lucky that it only took me 35 years to see God's plan orchestrated. Sometimes people have to wait 200 years, right, to see these things unfold. And we just don't know it in our lifetime. But I have seen over and over and over again in multitudes of ways how lives are changed through maintaining this relationship with this power. I can't explain it, right? It's about trust. It's like if you guys come to Connecticut and you want a new barber, and you say to me, hey, Lovey, do you know a barber? I say, yeah, go see Mike. He's really, really good, right? You guys are hoping Mike is really, really good. You go to Mike, he does your hair, you've got a beautiful coif, and now you trust that Mike can do it for you, right? Because now you have experience with it. And that's the way it is with me. And I've developed this over time, and so can you, but I don't need to know the details. I just need to trust that it works. If it works, you know, if it works for Babe, if it works for Isaac, if it works for, you know, Rach, well, maybe it'll work for me too. And I put that emphasis and that trust into that experience.
Lovely. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for your question. Isaac, come on in.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi everyone, I'm Isaac, recovered addict. Yeah, thank you to everyone doing service. Lovey, thank you so much for your share this evening. It was really great hearing you. My question to you is, what recent event or situation has deepened your relationship and experience with God, and what happened? Thanks.
Well, I think, I just told you, right now I'm dealing with all of these medical issues in my family, right? And in another lifetime, right, that would be stuff to drink over, right? That would be stuff to just go, huh, you know what, this is way too much. I can't deal with this. I'm just going to go out and drink myself into oblivion. Whatever happens, everything is going to be just fine, right? I'm going to be fine. I don't know if my daughter who had liver surgery is going to be okay in the long run. I don't know if, malignancy will return. All I know is that I have right now, and I trust in the moment. Right now, she's okay. Right now, she is recuperating in the hall, in the room down the hall. Right now, the doctors have done everything that they possibly can for her. And I'm confident and content with that because I only live in the moment. My mother-in-law is 83 and she's quite sick. We don't know if she's come home from the hospital. And that's okay too, because she's lived a wonderful life. She had 3 children. And when it's her time, right? Because we're all human. We all have expiration dates. She's without pain and she's content, right? That's all I can wish for. That's all I can hope for other people, right? My daughter who has, the gene that might give her breast cancer, right? We live in an age where we have that technology today to find that out. So we're not dealing with this, in 30 years. So we can remove all of that tissue. She can have reconstructive surgery and everything will be just fine, right? I know today everything's got a silver lining. I need to find it. And I think that's the difference for me, is I look for that silver lining and know that, that's God working in my life.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks for your question, Isaac. Andy, come on in. Oh, we can't hear you, Andy. You are unmuted, but we can't hear you. Let's go to Fraser while you're trying to sort that out. Fraser, would you like to come in?
Hi, thanks. Fraser, grateful recovered addict. Thanks, Lovey. Really enjoyed what you had to say. First time on this meeting, it's been a great experience so far. I'm 11 months clean, and I feel like my growth over the last 7 months has been quite good. I feel like I'm getting more connected to God and all that. But over the last few weeks, I just feel like I've been hit a stagnant. I've hit a wall, and I can't seem to move forward with it. Is there any advice you can give me about it? I'm trying everything. I think I'm looking back at what doing, or am I overthinking this and just not letting it carry on?
Well, you might be overthinking it. I don't know. I'll put my number in the chat and we can sort of talk about it, banter it around a little bit. I know that the big book makes it very, very clear. There are 3 things I need to do, right? I need to lay aside my prejudice. Those are all my old ideas, my old ways of thinking, the way that I think about God or the program or even young, right? It's like, none of that matters. I need to lay that aside. I need to have it absolutely straight. I also need to be willing. I need to be willing to have this experience. I need to be willing to try new things, to maintain this new. Sorry, my computer was about to restart itself. I need to have this willingness to do things in a different way to have this relationship, and I need to seek, right? And that takes action. What am I doing to seek? Right? It talks about prayer and meditation, but it could be chanting in drum circles, whatever it means to you, because how you define a spiritual principle or spiritual expression is completely up to you. It's the same way as how you define a higher power. That's up to you. But I know that I need to be enthusiastic about it, right? I need to say to myself, this is going to work, and make it work. And I have always been on my pink cloud. I've never lost it. And I'm delighted to say that, I joke with my sponsor. I say, I'm still snorting my pink cloud. And but I live in this program. And I think for me, the thing that really, really worked, that made the difference, is when I started sponsoring. The book says that, you know, you can be spiritually fit, but when you're having a bad moment, you pick up a newcomer and you start taking them through the book. And for me, that's been really life-changing. So maybe you got to take some new people through the book.
Lovely. Thanks for your question, Fraser. Andy, do you want to try one more time? Oh, try and unmute again. Go on, Andy. No, sorry, Andy, you're not coming out. We've got one more question in the chat. Lovey, if you may. What has your prayer life looked like in the last 24 hours?
So I have formal prayer and informal prayer, right? Formal prayer is, you know, on my knees. Informal prayer is having that dialogue, that one-on-one conversation with my higher power all the time, right? It's like having my best friend. It's like, hey, listen, I got to go. Come on with me. Sit down, put your seatbelt on. You know, I can't have God going through the windshield. You know, all of these kinds of things. I view my higher power as something that is tangible beside me, that I can bring with me everywhere, or can accompany me everywhere that I go. I have these conversations. People think I'm like nuts sometimes, but I have conversations. And that has just been the best, right? It's, you know, when I was a little kid, my parents said I had an imaginary friend, I now think that my imaginary friend wasn't really imaginary. My friend was God with me all the time, right? And I think children are very, very perceptive and can feel energy. And that has never left me, except when I was drinking. Then I lost all touch with that connection.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of question time, but not the end of the meeting. Do we have any CA related announcements? Okay, Tradition 7 states that every CA group ought to be fully self-supporting. There should be a link in the chat. Anything donated goes direct to the online district UK of Cocaine Anonymous. Isaac, would you like to read the step 10 promises, please?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition.